It's okay. You don't need to worry. Mummy's going to go to the neighbours and tell them to be quiet. While she's doing that, let me tell you a story. How did this get here? This right here was my old diary during the Second World War. Alright, let's start from the beginning. So it appears we start on the 18th of June in 1940. This is when I was a young man and was listening to the radio one afternoon. I wrote about when I heard a man named Winston Churchill announcing how
what General Weygand has called the Battle of France is over. The Battle of Britain is about to begin.
Then, 4 days later, France surrendered to Germany and Hitler turned his attention to Britain. I remember thinking about the future at that moment and wondering what it would be like for you. Then, on the 10th of July 1940, Germany launched an air attack on Great Britain, and this carried on until the end of October. Luckily, we had many British planes that fought in the war, so we were able to defeat all of the German planes. But on the 4th of September, Hitler gave the orders to destroy London and all other major cities. This kept on going for 11 days, and when the RAF destroyed all of the German planes attacking Britain, it was given the name the Battle of Britain Day. When I looked at the damage that had been done, I knew I wanted to join the war and help protect Britain. So, I signed up and became a soldier. That night, I slept with other recruits, and we had to wake up early and have our beds ready and made. On my first day of training, we had to do sit-ups, squat jumps, use the barbell, and do pull-ups. This happened day after day, and we did this so that we could prepare ourselves for the war. As the days turned to night and the days turned to weeks, everything became easier. Then, when we were finally ready, we moved on to gun training. As my training went on, I listened to the radio broadcasts of what was happening in the war. I started to doubt myself and my ability to protect the people whom I love until I turned the radio onto a man talking. Now, this wasn't any ordinary man. I heard Winston Churchill saying one of his famous speeches. Now, let me talk to you a bit about this man. When he was a young boy in 1895, he knew exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted to join the Royal Cavalry. So, every day he climbed his way up the ladder until he was chosen to succeed Neville Chamberlain as Prime Minister. He gave himself the title Minister of Defence, and that's when he gave some of his most memorable speeches.
We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. And if...
After I heard that speech, I knew that I would do everything in my power to protect the people who I cared about. Okay, so now we're on to June the 6th, 1944. We were shipped off to Normandy in something called a DUKW. Now, a DUKW was a vehicle that could be driven on land, but it could also float. So, they put us in with a load of other people and the voyage began. Whilst we were floating in the sea, I looked over the water and could see more than 100 DUKWs. To pass the time, I put my pencil to the paper and started filling in the blank pages of my diary. As we came closer to the coast of Normandy, I could hear the sounds of gunfire getting louder. The sky started to rain bullets and mud, and many of the ships around disappeared from sight, with only smoke to remember them by. Our DUKW was one of the lucky ones which made it to the coast, and as soon as the door opened, we ran for cover. Some of us didn't have a chance to make it out of the boat. I looked back to see many of my friends fall over and almost instantly buried in the wet sand and mud. At that moment in time, I understood that when you fight violence with violence, there is no end. That's when I became a conscientious objector. Now, a conscientious objector is someone who doesn't believe in using a weapon. I believe that in this world we should save lives rather than take them. So, at that moment, I threw down my weapon and dived into the hailstorm of bullets to save my friends. Day after day I did this until I barely had any energy left in my body. So, whenever we were able to, we would take naps in our trenches, which were like holes in the ground. Although we couldn't nap for long, every chance I got I would detail the war in my diary. As I tried to fall asleep, I could hear the sound of gunfire and bombs going off in the distance. I could hear the sound of the waves passing over the coast. Every day when I woke up, I could notice the sky getting darker and the amount of British soldiers slowly dying down. Then, 5 days later, on the 11th of June, the beaches were fully secured. The sky cleared and we could walk around freely. But, after I saw the massacre the guns had caused, I vowed never to touch a gun again. But, even without a gun, I knew that this was the start to the liberation of Europe and the end of the war. The war went on for almost another year until April the 30th, 1945, when I heard a news flash on the radio.
This is London calling. Here is a news flash. The German radio has just announced that Hitler is dead. I repeat that. The German radio has just announced that Hitler is dead.
Then, on May the 8th, 1945, the Nazis finally surrendered and gave up Germany. After the war, a conference was held in Germany to set up peace treaties. The countries that fought with Hitler lost territory, and Germany's capital, Berlin, was divided into 4 parts: American, British, French, and Soviet. On that day, I was finally able to come home and see your mother, and see you with my very own eyes for the first time. And I'd never been so happy in my life to know that you two were finally safe. And that seems like all I wrote. It also sounds like Mummy's made the neighbours be a bit quieter for you. Now, if my diary had to mean something, it would be that there's always a peaceful way to solve a problem. Now, you sleep tight. And remember that I will always be here to keep you safe. Good night.